you have no idea how close you are to a completely different life. One decision, one moment, one shift in how you see yourself, everything can change. Most people your age doesn't even realize they're sleepwalking through the years that shape the rest of their future. And that should scare you, because every day you delay becoming who you're meant to be, someone else out there is becoming unstoppable. Here's the truth no one tells you. Destiny isn't written for you. It's written by you. And if you keep living the way you are now, you'll inherit a future you never wanted. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the one mindset shift that separates those who rewrite their destiny from those who stay trapped in it. And once you hear it, you'll never look at your life the same way again. Most people grow up thinking destiny is something mysterious, something that just happens to them. They wait for signs, luck, timing, or some magical turning point that will suddenly change everything. But the truth is far less romantic and far more empowering. Destiny is not an event, it's a direction. It forms quietly, invisibly, through the choices you make when no one is watching. The future you're going to live in is already being built in the background of your everyday life. What makes this reality so frightening is that youth often disguises consequences. At 18, 25, even 30, it feels like you have unlimited time. You assume you can fix things later, you can start tomorrow, you can figure it out eventually. But eventually becomes someday, and someday becomes never. And before you know it, momentum is pulling you toward a life you never consciously chose. Most people don't end up stuck because they made one giant mistake. They get stuck because small, comfortable decisions slowly hardened into the walls of their future. But here's the part that changes everything. Because destiny is built, not assigned, it's also rebuildable. You're not sentenced to the path you've been walking. One moment of self-awareness can interrupt years of unconscious routine. One intentional choice can reverse the direction you've been drifting in. The second you stop outsourcing your future to luck, timing, or other people, you take ownership of your life's architecture. And that ownership is the turning point most people never experience. Because once you understand destiny is in your hands, waiting becomes impossible. You feel a new pressure, a new responsibility, but also a new power. And that power is the beginning of transformation. It's the moment you realize you're not waiting for destiny, you're shaping it, piece by piece. From this point forward, every small decision becomes a tool, every day becomes an opportunity, and every version of your future becomes negotiable, especially the one you thought was out of reach. Most people try to change their lives by changing their actions, but almost no one realizes that actions are just symptoms of identity. You behave the way you believe you are. If you secretly see yourself as someone who never follows through, you will sabotage your own progress. If you think you're not smart enough, talented enough, or disciplined enough, your brain will search for evidence to reinforce that story. This is why so many people feel trapped. They're trying to build a new life with an outdated version of themselves. Destiny changes not because you want it to. It changes when you change. Identity is powerful because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you start to think of yourself as someone who is consistent, you naturally become more consistent. If you see yourself as someone who prioritizes growth, you begin making decisions that align with growth. Your identity silently commands your future long before your actions do. And most people never question the identity they adopted in high school, or the one society casually handed them, or the one their failures convinced them to accept. Because of that, they keep repeating the same patterns, living the same year, over and over again. But the real breakthrough comes when you realize identity is not permanent. It's not a label you're stuck with, it's a choice you reinforce. You can rewrite who you are the moment you stop being loyal to the story that has kept you small. The hardest part of growth isn't learning new skills. It's divorcing the version of yourself that survived
but never truly lived. It's questioning beliefs you've held for years. It's letting go of the comforting excuses that protect your ego but destroy your potential. Changing identity feels uncomfortable because your brain is trying to protect you from risk by clinging to what's familiar. But nothing extraordinary grows in the territory of the familiar. Here's the truth most people never discover. The moment you adopt a stronger identity, your destiny starts to reorganize itself around that new standard. Doors you didn't notice before start to appear. Opportunities you weren't prepared to recognize become obvious. You stop thinking like the person who is stuck and start thinking like the person who is rising. And with every choice you make, that new identity becomes more real, more natural, more powerful. Destiny isn't shaped by talent or luck. It's shaped by the identity you choose to step into, daily, intentionally, relentlessly. Habits are the default wiring of your life. Neuroscience calls this the habit loop. Cue, routine, reward. Your brain hunts for efficiency, so once a loop is established, it runs on autopilot to conserve energy. That's convenient when the loop is running toward growth. You go for a run, you feel accomplished, you keep going. But catastrophic when the loop favors avoidance. Notification pops up. You scroll for dopamine. Day passes with nothing meaningful done. Over weeks and months, these micro-decisions strengthen neural pathways in one direction while weakening others. And that's literally how your future gets shaped without your conscious consent. What's sneaky is the scale of damage. No single habit kills a career or relationship overnight. Habits erode potential through compound interest. Imagine losing 10 minutes of focused work every weekday to shallow scrolling. 10 minutes seems harmless, but in a year, that's dozens of hours you didn't invest in learning, creating, or building momentum. That lost time is opportunity cost, the unseen tax on your destiny. If that idea makes you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is the first signal your brain gives before it allows the work that matters. So how do you break the chains? Start with leverage, not willpower. Willpower is finite. Systems are durable. Use these proven tactical moves. Identify the cue and the reward. Track at least 3 repeated behaviors for a week. What triggers them, what you actually do, and what you feel afterward. Awareness collapses the loop. Shrink the habit into a micro-habit. If exercise feels impossible, commit to 60 seconds of movement. Small wins create identity evidence. I am someone who shows up. Design your environment to remove friction. Want to stop late-night scrolling? Charge your phone in another room. Want to write more? Open a blank doc the moment you sit down. Environment changes are silent power plays. Use habit stacking. Tie a new habit to an existing one. After I brush my teeth, I will plan the top 1 task for tomorrow. The existing habit acts as an automatic cue. Adopt a keystone habit. Some habits cascade. Consistent sleep, daily exercise, or a morning routine will naturally improve focus, mood, and decision quality across the day. Pick one keystone and protect it fiercely. Temptation bundling. Pair something you need to do with something you want to do. Only listen to your favorite podcast while doing the work that matters. This converts friction into reward. Make it measurable and public. Track progress visibly, habit tracker app or calendar, and tell a friend or accountability group. Public commitment leverages social pressure and consistency bias.
Expect setbacks. This is where most people quit. Plan for them. When you slip, immediately do a recovery ritual. Note what triggered the slip, reset your environment, and commit to one ultra-small action right after. Never let a missed day become the story you tell yourself about who you are.
The narrative matters. One missed habit is a data point, not an identity verdict. Now let's address the less obvious habits that matter more than they look. Decision fatigue, passive consumption, and low-grade social obligations. Decision fatigue steals your best choices. Simplify by reducing options. Pre-made outfits, meal prep, fixed work windows. Passive consumption, the steady stream of low-value content, erodes attention and ambition by training your brain to seek quick dopamine. Low-grade social obligations, saying yes to too many invites, group chats, casual meetups that drain you, eat time and mental energy. Trim these quietly, not as punishment, but as strategic pruning so the parts of your life you want to grow get sunlight. Finally, link habits to identity every day. Don't say, "I want to study more." Say, "I am a person who studies for 30 minutes before dinner." The identity-first phrasing is what actually rewires behavior over time. Celebrate microscopic wins publicly if that helps. For the brain, evidence is everything. And before you move on, consider this cliffhanger. One tiny, almost ridiculous habit, practiced consistently for 90 days, rewires willpower, focus, and self-trust in a way that outperforms grand plans. Want to know what that habit is and how to implement it step by step? Spoiler, it's smaller than you think. Every major transformation in your life begins with a single decision. The decision to choose discomfort over convenience. It sounds simple, but it's the dividing line between people who change their destiny and people who watch their destiny drift further out of reach. Comfort is familiar, easy, predictable, but it is also the silent enemy of growth. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce the identity of someone who isn't ready for more. That one moment of avoidance doesn't ruin your future, but repeated consistently, it trains your mind to believe that your limits are permanent. And that belief becomes the invisible wall between who you are now and who you could become. What most people never realize is that discomfort is not punishment, it's direction. Your brain has been wired to protect you from pain, uncertainty, risk, and criticism. But the very things your brain fears are the things your future requires. Discomfort is the signal that you're entering territory where growth becomes possible. Look back at any moment in your life where you leveled up, even slightly, and you'll notice something. Discomfort was always present. It was there when you tried something new, when you took a chance, when you said yes without knowing the outcome. Destiny shifts not when you feel ready, but when you're willing to move while still feeling uncertain. This is the part where most people tap out, not because they're weak, but because society has conditioned them to chase convenience, avoid friction, and settle for the path of least resistance. But the truth is this: the path of least resistance leads directly to regret. The path of discomfort leads to evolution. Every time you choose the harder option, the one that scares you, challenges you, or stretches you, you are casting a vote for the future version of yourself. You're signaling to your identity that you are someone capable of more, someone worthy of more, someone preparing for a destiny that requires strength, not ease. And here's the twist most people never see coming. Choosing discomfort once doesn't change your life, but choosing it consistently transforms your trajectory faster than you can imagine. Because discomfort builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence builds identity. And identity builds destiny. When you start choosing discomfort, even in small ways, a difficult conversation, a challenging task, a disciplined decision, you begin rewriting the story in your brain about who you are. You shift from someone who avoids life to someone who engages with it fully. The next chapters of your life depend on whether you're willing to make this one decision, a decision that will feel small at first, but will echo through every corner of your future. If you can embrace discomfort now, the world you step into months from now won't look anything like the one you wake up in today. Breaking the loop of your old life doesn't require burning everything down or reinventing yourself overnight. Real transformation is not a dramatic explosion, it's a deliberate shift in direction. Picture your life as a train moving on a set of tracks. You don't need to replace the entire train. You simply need to switch tracks. That tiny shift, done consistently, is what changes the entire destination. The biggest misconception people have is believing they need to become a different person instantly. They imagine they need new personality traits, new habits, new routines, new everything. But destiny isn't changed through intensity. It's changed through structure. And structure comes from repeated small moves that speak louder than motivation.
Start with micro goals because they are the antidote to overwhelm. Your brain resists massive change because it interprets it as a threat. It thinks you're trying to step outside your survival zone. But micro goals bypass that resistance. When you commit to something small, your brain doesn't panic. It relaxes, allowing you to act. And it's that action, however tiny, that begins rewiring your identity. Every small promise you keep to yourself sends a message, I can trust myself. And self-trust is the currency of destiny. Without it, ambition collapses. With it, the smallest step becomes a powerful signal that the old you no longer runs the show. Environment engineering is the silent force most people ignore. We like to believe we make conscious choices, but most decisions are shaped by proximity and cues. Whatever is closest is easiest. Whatever is easiest becomes routine. Whatever becomes routine becomes identity. This is why leaving your life on autopilot guarantees repetition. Changing your environment is like rewriting the code your habits run on. Clean your workspace, and suddenly your mind feels lighter. Hide your phone in another room, and suddenly you can focus. Surround yourself with people who think bigger, and suddenly your ambitions expand. Destiny isn't only built through effort, it's shaped by the spaces you live in and the objects you allow within arm's reach. Then comes dopamine discipline, the modern necessity. We live in an age where entertainment is engineered to hijack your reward system. The problem isn't that you're lazy or unfocused, it's that your brain has been trained to prefer high-stimulation experiences over meaningful work. When your mind is constantly fed fast dopamine, ordinary effort feels unbearable. But when you reduce cheap stimulation, something incredible happens. You regain the ability to engage deeply. Boredom becomes less frightening. Focus stops feeling painful. Your brain recalibrates. This isn't about deprivation, it's about freedom. Freedom from compulsive scrolling, freedom from distraction, freedom from the invisible addiction cycles that quietly sabotage your potential. And accountability, real accountability, is not about encouragement, it's about alignment. The right accountability partner acts like a mirror that doesn't lie. They reflect your behavior back to you clearly and honestly, even when you're tempted to sugarcoat the truth. Discipline thrives in environments where excuses die quickly. When you have someone who expects more from you than you expect from yourself, your standards rise. Your thresholds change. Your old patterns begin to break because you're no longer the only one monitoring your progress. You are being held to a higher version of yourself. Here's the beautiful part. When these four elements merge, micro goals, environment engineering, dopamine discipline, and accountability, momentum is inevitable. It doesn't feel explosive at first, it feels subtle. You wake up one day and realize you're making choices the old you would have avoided. You find yourself saying no more often to distractions. You feel less controlled by temptation. Your actions begin to match your values. And as your identity shifts, life begins shifting with it. Opportunities feel different. People respond differently. Your path becomes clearer. Destiny isn't something you stumble into, it's something you grow into.
Your old patterns don't vanish. They lose their influence. They become weaker, quieter, less convincing. Because once you outgrow the version of yourself that created them, those patterns no longer fit. That's when you know you've truly broken the loop. Not when your life looks different, but when you feel different, more intentional, more capable, more aligned. That's when you stop reacting to life and start directing it. That's when destiny stops being a dream and becomes a direction. Excuses are not simply words you say, they are agreements you make with your limitations. Every time you repeat an excuse, you solidify a belief that your current level is all you are capable of. And this is where most people unknowingly sabotage their lives, not through failure, not through lack of opportunity, but through the quiet acceptance of, I can't, not today, or maybe later. These small, subtle phrases feel insignificant in the moment, but they accumulate. They shape your identity. They create a version of you who expects less from yourself. Destiny isn't stolen in one dramatic moment. It's slowly drained away through these tiny acts of surrender. What makes excuses so dangerous is how believable they sound. They wrap themselves in logic. They disguise themselves as self-care, as reason, as practicality. I need to rest. I'll start next week. I'm just not ready yet. These are not harmless thoughts. They are psychological escape routes your mind builds to avoid discomfort. Your brain is not trying to ruin your future. It's trying to protect you from pain. But it doesn't know the difference between real danger and emotional growth. So it creates excuses to keep you where things feel predictable, familiar, and safe. Safe, but stagnant. And here's the harsh reality. The gap between the life you want and the life you have is filled with excuses you've been defending for years. Not enough time? There are people with less time doing more than you. Not enough energy? There are exhausted people and still moving forward. Not enough opportunity? There are people with fewer chances carving paths where none existed. Excuses don't reflect your circumstances, they reflect your beliefs about your circumstances. And beliefs can be rewritten.
And here is the truth most people never confront. Your excuses are not just delaying your future, they're draining your power in the present. Every time you choose an excuse, you weaken your sense of agency. You reinforce the identity of someone who reacts instead of leads, someone who avoids challenges instead of creating opportunities, someone who lets life happen instead of shaping life intentionally. And over time, this becomes normal. It becomes comfortable. It becomes you. Until one day you wake up and realize that your destiny didn't fade. It was neglected. But the moment you stop negotiating with your excuses, everything begins to shift. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger. You begin to operate from clarity instead of avoidance. You stop waiting for permission and start giving direction. You stop asking yourself, do I feel ready? And start asking, what must I do right now? This shift from excuse-driven thinking to action-driven identity is the foundation of destiny. And here's the part that will challenge you the most. Your excuses will scream the loudest right before they die. The moment you decide to change, the old patterns will resist. Your mind will try to pull you back with comfort, distraction, rationalization, and fear. But that resistance is proof you're breaking the pattern. It's the psychological tension that always appears right before a breakthrough. You are not going backward. You are outgrowing the version of yourself that needed excuses to survive. When excuses finally lose their power over you, something extraordinary happens. Your life starts responding differently. Opportunities become visible. Decisions become easier. Discipline feels more natural. Your path opens. Your energy rises. Your confidence returns. And your destiny, the one you thought was too far away, begins to take shape in front of you. Excuses don't disappear because life gets easier. They disappear because you become the kind of person who no longer believes them. There comes a pivotal moment in every person's life when they must decide who they are going to be.
the one who reacts to life, or the one who directs it. Most people never reach this moment consciously. They drift through life convinced they have little control over their outcomes, unaware that this belief, more than their circumstances, is the very thing holding them hostage. A victim mindset doesn't always look dramatic. It isn't always loud, hopeless, or self-pitying. Often it hides behind rational statements like, "It's just not the right time," or "Life is unfair," or "Things never work out for me." These thoughts seem innocent, but they carry a heavy psychological price. They reinforce the idea that life happens to you, not because of you. When you operate from a victim mindset, you live in reaction mode. Your emotions react to circumstances. Your goals react to fear. Your decisions react to doubt. You're constantly waiting for the right moment, the right opportunity, the right support, the right energy, the right confidence. But the right moment rarely arrives. And while you wait, your potential sits untouched, gathering dust in the corner of your life. The truth is brutal. The belief that you're powerless is not protecting you. It's quietly draining the life you want from your future. What shifts everything is the realization that destiny is not shaped by circumstances. It is shaped by responsibility. Responsibility is not about blame. It's not about guilt. It's not about carrying the weight of the world. Responsibility simply means acknowledging that your future is influenced far more by what you choose than by what you inherit. When you step into the creator mindset, your energy changes because your relationship with control changes. You stop focusing on what you can't control, your past, your upbringing, the unfair things you've experienced, and start focusing intensely on what you can control, your habits, your reactions, your standards, your environment, your choices. This shift is uncomfortable at first. It forces you to confront the excuses that felt safe. It exposes the ways you've held yourself back without realizing it. It shines a light on the moments you settled, the opportunities you avoided, the patterns you repeated. But this illumination isn't meant to shame you. It's meant to free you. Because once you see the cage you're in, you realize the door was never locked. You were just sitting inside a prison built from beliefs that were never yours to begin with. The creator mindset demands courage, not the loud, heroic kind, but the quiet, daily kind. The courage to say, even if life didn't give me the best starting point, I'm not staying here. The courage to take responsibility for your reactions even when your circumstances are painful. The courage to build momentum even when your emotions are heavy. The courage to choose self-discipline over self-pity. This form of courage reshapes you from the inside out. It trains your brain to see challenges as raw material for growth rather than proof that you're doomed to fail. When you step into the creator mindset, you begin to understand something life-changing. Your circumstances are not your identity. They are your starting point. Two people can start in the same struggle and end in completely different futures, depending on whether they chose to react or chose to create. The creator does not wait for clarity. They create clarity. They don't wait for motivation. They build it through action. They don't wait for opportunity. They design it through consistency. They don't wait for permission. They give themselves the authority to start.
This internal shift alters everything. Your presence changes. Your decisions become sharper. Your standards rise without negotiation. You stop tolerating environments, relationships, and habits that weaken you. You start aligning your life with the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. Suddenly, the world begins to respond to you in ways it never did before. Not because fate changed, but because you did. When you begin acting like the creator of your destiny, life starts recognizing you as such. And here is the part that creates the cliffhanger. The moment you truly step into the creator mindset, your old life will resist. People will question you. Doubts will surface. Old habits will pull at you like gravity. This resistance is not a sign you're on the wrong path. It's a sign you've left the old path. It's the psychological friction that appears whenever you outgrow the identity that once kept you comfortable. Push through it and you will feel something rare. Power. Not power over others, power over yourself. The power to decide, to act, to build, to change direction, to rewrite what tomorrow looks like. This is the power that turns an ordinary life into an intentional one. This is the power that shifts destiny. The person who embraces this mindset doesn't just live differently, they become different. They become someone who stops thinking about the life they want and starts creating it piece by piece. Consistency is one of the most misunderstood forces in human transformation. People often think destiny changes through massive breakthroughs, sudden success, instant clarity, a dramatic turning point. But the truth is far simpler and far more uncomfortable. Destiny changes through the actions you repeat, quietly, steadily, and relentlessly when nobody notices. It is the invisible work, the uncelebrated discipline, the daily choices that seem too small to matter. Those tiny decisions stack over time, shaping who you are becoming at a level so deep that you don't fully recognize your own evolution until months later. Consistency is the slow, deliberate rewriting of your identity. What makes consistency so powerful is the psychological rewiring that happens underneath every small action. Every time you show up, even in a minimal way, you send a message to your brain. This is who I am now. And your brain listens. It begins building new neural pathways, strengthening muscle memory, forming habits that align with the person you're training yourself to become. Most people never reach their potential because they rely on motivation, a temporary spark, rather than identity-driven consistency, which is permanent and unstoppable once it's built. The biggest enemy of consistency isn't laziness, it's impatience. People quit because progress feels too slow, too quiet, too invisible. They compare their day 3 to someone else's year 10. They assume that because they don't see results, nothing is happening. But that's a fundamental misunderstanding of growth. A seed doesn't sprout the moment it's planted. Muscles don't grow the moment you lift the weight. Confidence doesn't appear the moment you take the first step. Everything meaningful grows in silence before it becomes visible. Consistency is the time period where your life is changing behind the scenes, even if your eyes can't see it yet. Consistency also exposes your relationship with discomfort. Anyone can take action when they feel motivated, excited, or inspired. But the people who change their destiny act even when they are tired, overwhelmed, distracted, discouraged, or afraid. That's what separates achievers from dreamers. Achievers understand that emotional inconsistency does not justify behavioral inconsistency. They do the work regardless of mood. This emotional discipline is what builds inner strength, mental resilience, and unshakable confidence. Your destiny changes the moment you learn to act independently of how you feel. What most people don't realize is that their life is already shaped by consistency, just the wrong kind. If you consistently procrastinate, your life reflects that in missed opportunities and stagnant progress. If you consistently distract yourself, your potential remains unfocused and unrealized. If you consistently doubt yourself, your decisions shrink to match your fears. Consistency is always at play. You are always practicing something. The key is to start practicing the behaviors that align with the future you want, not the past you're trying to escape. When you commit to consistent action, the world starts responding in ways that feel almost unfair. Opportunities show up because you've proven through repetition that you're serious. People trust you because consistency builds credibility. Your confidence grows not from hype or motivation, but from the evidence you've created through repeated effort. Your mind becomes clearer because consistency reduces chaos and increases structure. Suddenly, you stop drifting and start directing. You stop reacting and start designing. And here's the twist most people never see coming. Consistency becomes easier over time, not because the work gets lighter, but because you get stronger. The identity you build through repetition begins to carry you. What once felt like effort becomes normal. What once felt impossible becomes routine. What once required discipline becomes automatic. This is the point where destiny stops being something you hope for and becomes something you create naturally. Consistent action is not loud, glamorous, or flashy. It is quiet, steady, almost invisible. But it is the single most powerful force for transformation. Intensity builds excitement. Consistency builds empires. And once you master it, nothing about your future stays the same.
Most people think change is scary, but they never stop to calculate the terrifying cost of staying the same. And if you're honest, brutally honest, you already feel that cost. It shows up in quiet frustration, in the goals you keep postponing, in the dreams you've half abandoned, in the moments you lie awake wondering why your life feels stuck even though you're trying. The truth is simple. Staying the same isn't safe. It's expensive. It drains your confidence, your ambition, and your belief in what's possible. Every day you repeat the same patterns, you pay with your future. Staying the same costs you opportunities you never see. You don't just miss chances, you never even become the version of yourself who could recognize them. It costs you energy because nothing exhausts the human soul more than living below its potential. And it costs you time, the one thing you can never get back. People worry about the risks of changing their destiny, but the far greater risk is waking up one day and realizing you waited too long, that you played it safe until safe became suffocating. And here's the part nobody talks about. Staying the same creates quiet regret. Not loud regret, the kind you can easily ignore. Regret that whispers. Regret that says you could have been more, you could have done more, you knew what you needed to do, but you didn't. Those whispers become heavier with time. They follow you into your mornings, your relationships, your decisions. They shape the story you tell yourself about your value, your power, your potential. But here's the cliffhanger, the part that should shake you awake. The version of you that keeps delaying, doubting, and hesitating is not neutral. That version is actively shaping your destiny right now. And the longer you stay the same, the stronger that version becomes. The cycle gets tighter, the resistance gets louder, and the window of easy change begins to shrink. Most people don't realize they're fighting time itself until time wins. The emotional cost of staying the same is greater than the discomfort of change. At least change leads somewhere. Staying the same leads nowhere. Change gives you possibility. Staying the same gives you a repeat of yesterday. Change requires effort. Staying the same demands your entire future. This is your wake-up call. You don't have to know every step. You just have to stop choosing the version of you that keeps shrinking. Every moment you choose growth, you weaken the old identity that's been holding you back. And that's how destiny begins to rewrite itself from the inside out. If you want to change your destiny, you must become the person your future requires. Not the person you feel like being, not the person shaped by your past, the person shaped by your vision. Destiny is not something you chase. It's something you grow into. And the hardest truth you will ever face is this.
Your current identity cannot take you where your future is waiting. You must evolve. You must upgrade your mindset, your habits, your standards, your self-concept. Your future demands a version of you that thinks differently, speaks differently, behaves differently, and chooses differently. The mistake most people make is trying to change their life without changing themselves. They want new results with old routines, new opportunities with old excuses, a new destiny with an old identity. But transformation doesn't work like that. Your life expands only when you expand. Your success rises only when you rise. The world responds to the frequency you operate on. And right now, whether you like it or not, you're attracting the life that matches who you currently are. To become your future self, you must first let go of the identities holding you hostage. The identity that says, "I'm not ready." The identity that says, "I always mess up." The identity that says, "People like me don't win." These beliefs are not truths. They are outdated software. And if you don't uninstall them, they will crash every dream you try to build. You must decide who you want to be and start acting like that person before you feel worthy of it. Identity shifts do not happen after success. They happen before it. And here comes the challenge, the kind that separates the ordinary from the unstoppable. This process will feel uncomfortable. Growth always feels like loss at first. You'll lose habits that numb you. You'll lose people who prefer your old patterns. You'll lose the mental comfort of staying familiar. But what you gain in return is worth everything. You gain clarity. You gain resilience. You gain pride in who you're becoming. You gain a sense of inner power that can't be taken from you. Becoming your future self is not about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about asking yourself every day, are my actions matching the life I say I want? And here's the cliffhanger, the brutal truth. If the answer is no, your future will belong to someone else. Someone who showed up, someone who changed, someone who did the internal work you avoided. Destiny does not reward desire. It rewards transformation. But when you finally step into that higher identity, everything shifts. Opportunities find you. People respect you. Discipline feels natural. Growth becomes addictive. And life starts to respond to you in ways it never has before, because you're no longer moving from fear. You're moving from power. And that is the moment destiny bends in your direction. There comes a moment, a quiet, private moment, when something inside you shifts. Not because life suddenly got easier, not because your circumstances magically changed, but because you decided you were done living beneath your potential. This moment doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with applause or permission. It arrives when you finally understand that nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to push you, and nobody can rewrite your story except you. And that realization, that is the spark that bends destiny. That is the instant where your future starts to rearrange itself around your courage. One decision, one commitment, one internal rebellion against the version of you that's been settling for less. This is where everything begins. You don't need guarantees. You don't need perfect timing. You just need a single moment of absolute clarity where you choose growth over fear, action over excuses, and purpose over comfort. Because once that choice is made, truly made, your old life loses its grip. And from that moment forward, you don't just move towards your destiny begins moving towards you.